Now, one of the things that you're asked to do is to sketch tan graphs. So right here we've got, you're asked to sketch tan of 4x. Now, with your tan graphs, your dilation, so whatever is in front of tan doesn't really matter too much. But how we calculate the changes is period. How we calculate our period change a little bit. So we still use that there, but generally we don't worry too much about what's in front of it. So for our period, t equals pi on n. For sine and cos it was 2 pi, but for for tan it's just pi on n. So in this case, our period would be pi over 4. That's our coefficient there. So having got that, that's our period. So every pi on 4 is going to repeat itself. The next thing we want to work out is where we're going to asymptote. Now we know that if we've got tan of theta, that's going to asymptote at pi on 2. So for tan to asymptote, for that to be infinity, we imply that theta has to equal pi on 2. So if we want our function here, this thing, to asymptote, 4x has got to equal pi on 2. So what we say 4x equals pi over 2, multiply both sides by 4, so we have x equals 4 pi over 2. So we're going to asymptote. Now we've got to divide, not multiply. Silly. So we're going to divide. It becomes pi over 8. So we're going to asymptote every pi on 8. So from there we put in our axes and we sketch away. So put in a dotted line for asymptote. Bit hard to draw. On this, much easier on paper. So over here, so we've got asymptote at pi over 8. We've got a period at pi over 4. So our second asymptote happens exactly one cycle. So this is at pi on 4 plus pi over 8. So we take our first and we add it to the period. So that ends up being 2 pi over 8 plus pi over 8. So that means that 3 pi over 8. So that's where our second period happens. 3 pi over 8. Got another period here. So that's where our second asymptote happens. And we've got another period here at pi on 2. And so on. That's how we go about calculating that. So for our next one, we'd say pi on 2, because that's what happens as every pi on 8 away. So that's how we go about sketching a tan graph.